one Sunday before we can end the liturgical year, which is next Sunday, with the feast of Christ the King, the church invites us through the readings to ask us about our preparedness for the coming of the King. Will we be ready when the King comes? And so the readings of today are in order to prepare us, to ensure that when the King comes, we will be able to recognize him and we will be able to welcome him. And that is why when writing to the Thessalonians in his second letter, Paul is very clear that his way of preparing for any future event is to work hard in the present, is to do what he is meant to do in the now and not worry about the results or what will worry about what will happen and what will occur. In the parable of the sower, in Mark chapter 4, verses 3 to 9, Jesus tells us about the relentlessness of the sower. Even though the sower sows along the path and the seed is eaten by birds, the sower sows along the rocky ground, and because of lack of depth, the seed does not grow. The sower sows among thorns which grow up and choke the seed, even though 75% of the sower's effort is lost, and it is only in 1/4 or 25% that there is gain. The gain is 30, 60, and 100. In other words, it is very likely that the larger amount of the work we do or the larger amount of the effort that we put in may not bear as much fruit as we would like. If the sower had focused only on the 75% and stopped sowing, there would be no sowing in good soil. But the sower does not do that. What the sower does instead is continue to be persistent and persevering, continue to do what he or she has to do relentlessly. And because the sower is relentless, there is that gain which is astounding. The figures Jesus gives, 30, 60, 100, are extraordinary figures. He uses hyperbolic language to indicate that we must never give up. The gospel text of today is chosen from what is known as the eschatological discourse of Luke. And the word eschatological comes from the Greek eschaton, which means the last things, the things of the afterlife. And in these verses, Jesus makes two significant points. And the first is this, that everything, no matter how beautiful, no matter how astounding, no matter how extraordinary, is passing, is temporary. The wealth we possess, the talents we possess, the good we possess, the riches we possess, the homes and the cars and the external wealth is all temporary and passing and will wither away. And because it is temporary and passing, we must never regard them as permanent. If we regard what is temporary and passing as permanent, we are missing the point. There is only one absolute. There is only one permanent, and that absolute and permanent is God. And so Jesus is very emphatic when people point to the beautiful buildings that they see, when they point to the stonework that they see, when they point to the grandeur that they see. Jesus says, yes, it is beautiful. Yes, it is lovely. It is beautiful to see and wonderful to the sight. However, it is passing and it is temporary and must be regarded as such. The second point that he makes is this, that we have to focus not so much on what is going to happen to us when we stand before God, because God is going to judge us later on how we are at this moment. Since God doesn't have a future, God doesn't have a past, God has only a now. The judgment God will make will be made in the now. And that is why in the first reading, Malachi is very strong when he is exhorting the people to live righteous lives, to live a life in which their conscience will direct them to do what is right, to do what is just, to do away with oppression and injustice, and not cheat people, not lie to people, not demean people, not do wrong to people. He exhorts them that their words and their actions must be such that they will only enhance, they will only build up. In the same vein, Jesus calls his disciples to be fearless no matter what the situation, because at every moment, God is in control. It is likely that we might experience sometimes in the present a calamity. We might experience a misfortune. We might experience some event in our lives in which we have failed. And Jesus says to those who listen, this is also temporary. This is also passing. This is also impermanent. What is required is resilience. What is required is persistence and perseverance. What is required is never giving up. It is likely that, like the sower, 75% of our effort might seem to be in vain. But it is also true that the 25% of our effort, which is in good soil, will bear fruit 30, 60, 100. So therefore, as we prepare for the coming of Christ the King, let us ask ourselves whether we are among those who first will live only in the present moment, only in the now, and do at the moment what we have to do, leaving no stone unturned, not giving up, not giving in. And second, whether we will do that fearlessly because we stand for the truth, we do good, and we speak what is good. If we are aware of this, and if we do this, then we do not have to worry about what will happen, because the Lord is very clear in the last verse of the gospel of today. Not even one hair of your head will be harmed. This is the confidence the Lord gives us when we stand up for what is right. This is the confidence we must take with us as we prepare for the coming of the King.